So there was a study that came out. I think it was like 97% of pilots are ineffective in enterprise environment. Yes, because these pilots are using tools that are inflexible to the workflows. In the same study, the study said, if you go and infuse AI into your workflows, this is where we're seeing companies succeed. So organically, that happens at Automattic because everybody chooses their own tools. They already have their own processes.
A 97% failure rate. That's the reality of enterprise pilots right now. Here's what's happening. Companies are spending millions on centralized AI platforms, mandating their use across teams, and they watch adoption crater. Meanwhile, at Automattic, the company behind WordPress that's powering 43% of the internet, they're taking the opposite approach.
So everybody kind of builds their own systems that they truly are effective with. And then they share it. And they're like, hey, I use Cursor to do this.
No mandated tools, no central AI platform. Instead, 1,500 employees, each choosing their own AI stack, running parallel experiments, sharing what works. That sounds like chaos, but it works. When you have 1,500 experiments running simultaneously, natural selection takes over. Best practice bubble up, failures die quietly, no committees, no meetings.
When you come to Automattic, you're not given kind of this pre-collection of tools that you must use. Everybody here can expense whatever tool they want. So they choose what works for them. They build their stack. That mentality of everybody should use AI and lean into AI funnels into that. So everybody kind of builds their own systems that they truly are effective with. And then they share it. And they're like, hey, I use Cursor to do this. And then I pass it off to Claude Code. And then I pass it off to V0. And now I have this design-based mock-up of something that's actually functional that I can send to an engineer and get a pulse check on. If you look at a company that's existed for 20 years remote, you're going to have systems where you share things to everybody or to groups or to people or to teams. So when I came into Automattic, I was shocked at how much written communication existed, how active and lively Slack channels were compared to some other companies. That is a perfect segue into, well, I have a prompt, I have a stack, I have this thing that I built. I'm just going to use the things that I've already used, the systems, the processes, the channels that already exist in Automattic to just share this.
20 years of remote work created something essential at Automattic, the perfect infrastructure for distributed AI adoption. Whilst half of the work is finding the new AI solutions, the other half is explaining it. For large organizations, it's communication and adoption, systemization.
At the beginning, we did a lot of self-built internal AI stuff, and that didn't really work well with what I just described at Automattic, which is everybody has their own workflows. There are things to improve, yes, globally, but maybe those things can be improved by procuring a tool or just making a stack public, as opposed to trying to devote resources internally to build these products. My vision internally with this company was, we're going to build the craziest internal assistant. We're going to do all this stuff because we have this data, we have this communication.
Building that crazy internal assistant James mentioned, that's a department of engineers, budgets in the millions, a lot of management, a lot of risk. Based on those stats mentioned earlier, 97% chance of failure.
The reality was that engineering time was spent better going and building products externally, or going and exploring how we can tie together pieces of our existing technology with AI.
The distributed approach, each employee runs their own stack. And instead of 5 big bets, you get 1,500 tiny experiments, each generating their own unique insights, good or bad. Best practice spread virally, no training programs, no change management.
We have product managers who in the past would have to work with design for 2 weeks to get to prototypes. Now they're going and vibe coding this stuff with the complete understanding that this is not going to go production, but it's going to be a really good example of, this is what I'm thinking. Here, I have proven that it's technically possible. And now we don't need to go through that back and forth review stage. Instead, I can go and work alongside engineering, design, and product instead of kind of this slow burn up to the point of review. There's documented ways of doing things here, but a lot of these processes exist within groups and teams and individuals, and they can choose to infuse AI into those processes should it make sense. So it's a bit different in that AI thrives at Automattic, and the usage of AI internally thrives to help us build better products externally because we truly embed it into our workflows that are tried and true over years and years and years. And our the owners of those workflows are experts in why they exist, how to do it, so they can identify, oh, like this is where AI truly does make sense. Then share it, and then everybody can kind of reap the benefits of that experience.
This is a real strength at Automattic. Distributed intelligence isn't just about tools. It requires 3 cultural prerequisites that take years to build. First, real trust in your team's judgment.
Still processes here. So we do have legal guidelines on how to use AI. We do have recommended tools. We do have recommended stacks of tools. Everybody can still, as they have been able to do for forever, choose their own tools, choose their own processes, their workflows, and use their best judgment on how to apply these guidelines.
Second, robust async communication that makes sharing natural, not mandated. And third, tolerance, productive noise, where not everybody uses the same stack. Automattic built these over 20 years of remote work. They didn't plan for AI, but they have happened to create the conditions where AI adoption really thrives. Like most things, AI will be as much about history and culture as strategy and budget.
Everybody's trying to build AI to solve all of their problems with one fell swoop. And maybe at some point that will happen. And we obviously are continuing to look at what can we buy? What can we build? What makes sense in that more general situation?
James and Automattic, they're not forcing a single AI. They're running thousands of tests to discover what actually works. It's a living lab where the future emerges from the bottom up.
But we're still kind of discovering how people even want to use AI, where it is effective in this organization. And I think in general across the industry, which means that maybe the best use of resources internally is enablement.